Hello Tech Art students. I will be doing a video or two or three every week which should mirror the content that we go over in our classes. I'm going to start today with a short video about, just as a course overview, give you an idea of what to expect in the class and how the Canvas shell is laid out. And a couple notes, of course, about the syllabus. I'd like to go through that as well. I'm doing these videos because I understand that, especially during the first week of class, maybe not all of you have incredible access to the technology you need to be as productive as you'd hope in these classes. And then the technical instruction, I think, will come handy as a review. So you can follow along during class time as we go through our coursework, and then you can review the videos later on as a reference. And we'll talk more about that in the first class in person. So this class is taught synchronously. You are required to be logged in at the beginning of our class period every week. I will be taking attendance. I have scheduled some office hours. These are Zoom sessions for now. And there are two 1.5-hour sessions per week. And then I have several other hours that I've not posted or announced that I'm available to meet with students who can't make either of these sessions. So Zoom meetings are here. They're set up with a waiting room. So if you pop in there, you'll see that I could let you in right away. Or if I don't let you in right away, there's probably somebody already in with me, and then I will let you in as soon as they leave. And if you ever want to set something up because you can't make these times, please send me an email for now. And that's probably the best way to get in touch with me for the first couple of weeks. Okay, so as I said, this is a synchronous class, but you do not need to be on campus to take this class. You could be anywhere. You could be in your dorm or at home. We have stations set up in CCM 232 and 001 with cameras. You're welcome to take the class there. You're welcome to work in there on classwork that the class is scheduled for in that room. You should not be in those classrooms during other times. I think they're pretty much booked up from 8 to 5 most days of the week, except for Wednesday, of course. To use the classroom outside of our scheduled class time, you need to register with SCETA, and you need to reserve a seat. So this system went up a couple days ago and just went live. You can schedule up to 5-hour sessions in there at a time, and you can schedule them up to 3 days in advance. What we don't want you to do is go in and then schedule your seat. So you need to reserve these seats beforehand. The labs are closed between 11:45 p.m. and 3 a.m. Every day of the week for cleaning. Other than that, you are welcome to work in there. There's a full Canvas module here that you can access for the full lab policies. Please do familiarize yourself with those before you start using the lab. Okay, so technical art is a pretty cool class. It's a very interesting field where we're combining the role of the artist with the role of a scripter, or sort of a high-level programmer, not a low-level programmer. We're working in a very managed environment. We don't really have to worry too much about things like memory, unless you try to build 1,000,000 cubes or something like that. We just really need a basic foundation in programming, and then the knowledge that we have of Autodesk Maya and art in general and the role of the artist to create tools that artists can use. These might be procedural tools that do modeling processes, or they might be tools that aid in tedious processes like rigging. And we could also just make some cool sort of exploratory art. Now, I know that in the past we've had quite a few students take this who are programmers or who are designers who've had more programming than the artists. And they come in deficient in Maya. They've all taken at least one class, but they have a lot of coding experience. So everybody just needs to understand that this class starts at absolutely the basics of programming, but accelerates very quickly and is quite scalable. So if you have quite a bit of programming knowledge, you can actually dig pretty deep in this and do some really fun things. And if you don't have a lot of programming knowledge, you can maybe just decide to do some really cool modeling with code. And that would be procedural modeling, which is a lot of fun. You don't need much to take this class. You need Autodesk Maya. I'm using 2020. That's what I recommend you use. Some students have had some trouble upgrading, but I think they've been able to overcome that. I had some problems with it too. I was able to overcome it. We will use a Python editor eventually. For the first week or two of class, we're just going to use the script editor in Maya. You can take notes. We'll talk more about this in our first synchronous session. Or you can try to follow along. It really kind of depends on your setup. And just remember that any technical instruction, you will have a video to fall back on, plus a daily list of what we'll be going over in class. And that will be available in the modules section. So we're going to do just really basic foundation programming stuff, like what is a variable. We'll do operators. We'll write some functions starting week 2. We're going to be working in Maya 100%, meaning we're going to be leveraging Maya's functions. We'll go over this first day of class, and I'll go over this when we start. I do some more technical demonstration in another video. We're going to be wrapping that in Python, and the two work together actually really, really well. We'll have a lot of fun with user interface programming, and that really breaks us into the user experience, right? Like, how do we order our UI elements? When do we use radio buttons versus checkbox? And then we want to make that look very nice. And we want to expose certain variables, but maybe not all of them. And that all comes down to the user experience. And ultimately, we're developing tools for artists, but that doesn't have to be an outcome of this class. We could also make some cool toys, for example, that just make art things or do some really interesting things with Maya, but maybe don't have an obvious use. So the assignments for this class, there's really 2 assignments in the class, and then there's this weekly demonstrated understanding of the content to date. And what that is this is a subjective assessment that I will be giving you all based on really how you're doing in the class. This class goes fairly quickly. It's not really a challenging class, but it goes quickly, and it really requires, like many classes, that you understand each step of what we've gone over in class before you come to the next class. So we're probably going to go over 50 or 60 things in the first class. You have a video to fall back on, and you have a list of what these things are. It's your job before the following class to really have an understanding of what all those things are. And if you don't, and we start adding more things on, you'll quickly get lost and confused. And this happens actually quite a bit in this course. So my recommendation is after the first class, soon after the first class, take some time going over what we all did in class. And you can reference that video if you need help. We'll be doing a fence builder project, which is procedural art, where we really just press a button and it makes a beautiful picket fence or a wrought iron fence or both. And then we'll be using certain UI fields so that the user has some input they can put in there to make different kinds of fences. It's kind of an eye-opening project. It's a lot of fun. And then we'll be doing a main project, which is one that you're going to develop based on your interests and understanding. And that's going to be probably a 10-week project that we'll go over. So this is a synchronous class. As I said, we'll have at least 1 hour of class time every week, maybe as much as 2, maybe as much as 2.5 during critique weeks or when we have a lot of material to cover. Attendance is mandatory. I'll be taking attendance at the beginning of every session. Please be logged in at the beginning of the session. And you can read the attendance and assignment policies. They're basically the same as all the other game art classes. And if you have any questions about those, please let me know. Okay. So let's have a look at the modules here. This is really how the course is run. And I've got some content in here for the first 5 weeks, excuse me. Here's the SCEDA information down here, so don't forget to check this stuff out as well. And if I click on week 1 course content, you can see that this is basically a list of what we're going to be going over in the first week of class. And I expect you, before coming to week 2, to have practiced all of this at least 2 or 3 times. And in the next video I will give you a pretty simple demonstration of how to practice this. We're just going to go over some kind of silly exercises with variables and adding those together. And that will get you started, right? There's not a ton of content in here, but it can be a little confusing if you don't practice it. So take some time on this. Here's a list of everything you need to know. The videos will be in here. This is actually the same Canvas page. If you click on this, it's going to look like this. We'll have week 1 videos, week 2 videos, so on and so forth. And these will actually be links to those videos right here. These are unlisted YouTube videos. They're all going to be filmed in 1080p. They should be very high quality. And production value aside, they'll be very high resolution anyway. And I will put a title here that gives you an idea of what each video is. Some weeks there may be 1, some weeks there may be 5, some weeks there might be none. And these are just for your personal reference, or if you can't make it to class for some reason. All right, so week 2, for example, right? It builds on week 1. You can look at all of this. I don't recommend that you jump ahead too much in the class. I really recommend you really study and work with the material that we've gone over to date. And later on, if you feel like you want to jump forward a little bit, then feel free to do that once we have all of the pieces in place. Okay, so I'm going to conclude this as the introduction to the course. And I will be doing another video soon for the technical content of week 1.